Hey everybody, it's Katie. It's been a while, and this is the update that nobody wants to make. As you can tell by the title, we were trying to conceive, and this was our second pregnancy, but it was lost at around 5 weeks. So this is just sort of the nuts and bolts of what happened. I'm gonna insert my chart here because I think it might get kind of confusing with like dates and acronyms and that kind of stuff. Even if you don't read charts, you know, you can tell that every column, I guess, is a day, and red is bleeding, and I don't know. So anyway, seeing other people's charts has always helped me, so I'm going to insert mine here. So the cycle that we conceived started on September 15th. I ovulated on cycle day 23, which is fairly normal for me, and that was October 7th, so that was that day. 6 days after that, I started bleeding, and I bled for 5 days, so I thought that that was my period, and I had had a 5-day luteal phase. Because as you know, I'm still breastfeeding, and I do have a short luteal phase to begin with, and breastfeeding can make that worse, so I thought that this was my record shortest ever 5-day luteal phase, and then I was on to a new cycle. Of course, as it turned out, that wasn't my period, that was just 5 days of bleeding, but anyway, so 6 days after ovulation I started bleeding, and I had what I thought was a normal period, fairly heavy bleeding, not a lot of cramps or anything like that. So it stopped, and I thought we started a new cycle. My temps were still up, but they were sort of erratic, and they've just been sort of off, again, because of breastfeeding, and sometimes I have to wake up at different times with Alice, that kind of stuff. So I have been taking OPKs to kind of back up, you know, my charting and my temperatures. So I started taking OPKs on cycle day 14, what I thought was cycle day 14, and it was actually cycle day 42. And they were positive, so I had 3 positives in a row on my OPKs, which is abnormal. Usually I get one day. I think maybe once there's been 2 positives in a row or something, but to have 3 in a row, actually it turned out to be 4 in a row, is strange. So that first made me question kind of what was going on. But again, you know, with breastfeeding and just things still sorting themselves out, postpartum, I don't know, I was feeling like I had a pretty high threshold for just weirdness. So about a week ago now, it was Monday the 29th of October. I guess it would have been cycle day 46. I again had another positive OPK in the morning. I went to work for my morning work, and I came home at noon and picked up Alice, and I had been bleeding all that morning. So starting that morning, I had started bleeding. And I was really confused because it was way too early to be my period again. That would have been cycle day 17. I think cycle day 17, because I thought I was on a new cycle. So it didn't make sense to be bleeding when I was expecting to ovulate. So, like I said, I was bleeding for like about 5 hours, and I started thinking I needed to call somebody. I wanted to call my old midwife's office and just kind of, you know, let her know what was going on and see if she had any thoughts. And so I decided to take a pregnancy test because I knew that that would be one of the first questions that they would ask, is, you know, just basically to rule it out. So I took a pregnancy test at around noon, and it was super positive. Just immediately there was a really dark line. We obviously did not know that we were pregnant before this. You know, as I've said, I didn't really have any symptoms. I had had a few days of, you know, feeling tired. I'd had a few moments of having a little bit of like a queasy feeling, but I just chalked it up to, you know, taking my vitamins at the wrong time, or just not getting enough rest, being stressed about stuff. So I definitely was not thinking that it was going to be positive when it was. So I called my midwife's office, and she said that she couldn't see me that day, but because for bleeding, they just want you to go to the ER. So on that day, I had to call Mike and get him home from work, and we went to the ER. We were there 7.5 hours, and they did a beta HCG testing for the pregnancy hormone in my blood, and then they also did an ultrasound. My beta was 169, which for being at that point I would have been like 5 weeks, or maybe 5 weeks in a day, I think. 169 is super low. They did an ultrasound in the ER, and they knew that there was nothing in my uterus at that point. They were worried about an ectopic, so they looked around, my tubes and my ovaries and couldn't really find anything else. But they wanted me to do a repeat beta and a repeat ultrasound 48 hours later. So 2 days later, it was Wednesday, Halloween. I went and got the blood work done again and got an ultrasound again. And again, they didn't find anything, in my uterus or elsewhere. And my HCG at that point was 158, which was kind of weird. I saw my midwife the next day just to kind of get her impressions of everything and follow up. And she said that she would have expected my level to drop, my HCG level to drop more than that in 48 hours. So I don't know. I mean, I think that my body is still sort of, I don't know, just confused, I think. My temperatures are still up, but they're pretty erratic, and they've been really erratic this whole cycle, since ovulation anyway, like just all up and down crazy. So I don't know if that's a reliable indicator of anything. I've had just a little bit of mild cramping this second time around, and I have been bleeding for 6 days now. I'm taking home pregnancy tests, just the internet cheapies, every 2 days, just so I don't go crazy. I don't want to do it every day, but I'm just taking them every so often to see that the line is getting lighter, and very slowly it is. If I'm still bleeding in a few more days, I'm going to go back to the midwife and get my HCG tested again and just try to figure out what's going on and why my body is still hanging on to this. But that is where things are physically. I'm going to do a second video that's all about how we're coping and dealing with all this stuff and just our reactions, through it all. But anyway, so that's what's going on here. I'm going to put the last frame as my chart again, if you need to kind of piece together the stuff I've thrown out. Yeah, look for my next video. Bye.